everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Mash In, sponsored by Harvest Seasonal Kitchen in historic downtown McKinney. I'm Toby.
I'm Bob.
We're going to be talking about all things Oktoberfest. We're going to go out in the square in a little bit, try some food, check out some local vendors, and try out a few local Oktoberfest brews. First thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of the history of Oktoberfest. Mm-hmm. So Bob, you were talking a little bit earlier about how there are only 6 breweries and
Yes, the original breweries, there are only 6 of them that are allowed to legally call themselves an Oktoberfest beer. We're not one of them.
We're not one of them. We're not one of them. Nobody around here is, and those guys are the ones that have been brewing the Oktoberfest beer for a long time.
1800s, right?
Yeah, since around the 1870s. 1872, I think, was the first one that...
I was not there, just for the record.
I was not there as well. How did it all get started? How did Oktoberfest come about? And why is it in September, for God's sakes, right? So it was basically marriage. The Princess of Bavaria, Teresa, was marrying Crown Prince Ludwig, and they just threw a huge festival on October 12th. And the entire town came. They had horse races. They named the fields outside the city gates Theresienwiese, which means Teresa's Fields, in honor of the Crown Princess of Bavaria. And they've just kind of carried that on ever since. The first Oktoberfest, their communal celebration, but then it eventually kind of turned into a celebration of agriculture, farming, and obviously of beer.
What beer's all about? Agriculture, about community, about hanging out with each other, having a couple of beers.
Exactly,
right?
Which is the most important.
That's right. And
beer tastes best after a hard day's work, or after a not so hard day's work, and just hanging out on a Sunday.
Beer tastes good no matter what.
watching your kids or whatever. My wife and I have been long since purveyors of the Texas road
I still
want
to see that picture with you in one of those Oktoberfest outfits.
Yeah, they are out there. There's plenty. There's a lot of incriminating pictures of me out there at various festivals. I have a specially made hat for Oktoberfest.
You should have wore it today.
I should have, but instead I didn't. But I did wear my Faust brewery hat. Which is in New Braunfels, which was the first Oktoberfest that I went to, Wurstfest, and it was mind-blowing, giant beers, everyone dancing, everyone drinking. We stayed at a pretty sketchy hotel in New Braunfels, and then got shuttled in, and it's amazing if you've never been. So I love all those things. I'm pretty cliche when it comes to that kind of stuff, and anything that revolves around kind of fried foods and beer. Mm-hmm. I am there.
You're there?
I'm there, and I'm good. I'm good to go.
I'm beer and bacon, but other than that,
well, good. Well, there's usually those things at Oktoberfest.
That's right.
So
True.
Good. So a little bit about McKinney Oktoberfest too, which a lot of people may not realize is it kind of got started around the same time Dennis opened up Franconia,
that's right,
brewery in the city of McKinney. When I was considering moving down here from Austin or here, I took a tour of Franconia and got a chance to talk to Dennis and drink some beers, and then I went to Hutchins and barbecue and got brisket, and it was amazing. And I was like, I can do this, man. I can move here. I can move back home. I think we got a brewery. We got this. And then, of course, Tufts opened up, and we got to know those guys. And so I think it's really cool, and I think it's really unique that you have a brewer whose ancestry is from Bavaria. Franconia is a region in Bavaria.
It's like a 5th generation master brewer.
Yeah, his uncle still brews in Germany as well. Wow. So a long history and tradition of that, and obviously Dennis is a pretty passionate guy. But I think he's really entertaining to talk to. And I just think that McKinney as a city is really lucky to have that. I think they're really lucky to have a Tufts, and I think they're really lucky to have a Franconia too.
Absolutely.
And I see the major benefit of both of those guys. I think it's really cool that you have that. That you have a traditional German brewer in your town, kicking off your Oktoberfest, and I think it's pretty invaluable. Not a lot of Oktoberfests have that.
Oh, and I'm looking forward as a new brewer to learn from these guys. to expand upon and take some knowledge from what they've been provided for the last 10 years?
Yeah,
15
exactly.
years?
And it's nice in the brewing community that people are always welcoming and opening and full of knowledge. Like we talked about last week, how much help we've got from Tubbs and those guys. So it's really great. We're actually drinking some Franconia Oktoberfest beers now. I love it when this beer comes out. I always get a keg for myself. It's great, man. It's malty, it's caramely, it's got a flavor of dark beer. It's easy to drink. It's easy to drink in a giant beer mug, which we should probably have. But McKinney was sold out today when we went around shopping.
That's a good problem to have.
Good problem to have, for sure. So I look forward to drinking that kind of every year. All right, so we just walked around. It's Sunday, last day of Oktoberfest here in McKinney. We went around and grabbed a couple of beers. We have Tubbs' Oktoberfest that they released this year. It's pretty tasty. Rye Craft Food and Drink had a tin out there, and Tanner and those guys hooked us up with some brats, some pork belly brats, and some traditional poutine with wiener schnitzel, which I am thoroughly excited about.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it does. Sundays don't suck, for lack of a better term, I guess. Anyways, we're going to try a couple of those, and then we grabbed a couple of local Oktoberfest beers as well we're going to try. I had a Polliner in my fridge. I have not had a Polliner Oktoberfest since I was probably underage, but it was the first Oktoberfest beer.
That was a long time ago,
It was a while back. It certainly feels like it was a long time ago. So anyways, I just grabbed one because I haven't had it in so long. I wanted to see. And then Rar & Sons Oktoberfest just took the gold at the Great American Beer Fest in Denver, Colorado last week. So we're excited to try that as well. So what do you think first, Bob? Pork belly?
Let's do pork belly. I'm hungry.
If your wife is watching this with you, you might want to turn her away because she might serve some divorce papers due to the sexiness. Well, that's pretty much awesome.
And a little messy.
A little messy is not bad. I think I would like a brat topped with an entire slab of pork belly.
That would be perfect.
All right, so on to the poutine. I'm really excited about this. We have a couple of Canadian employees on our staff, and one of our servers brought this over from the Rye tent yesterday on break, and they turned into 9-year-old Canadian boys, and they were extremely excited. So, anyways, I figure we'll taste this and try a little bit of the Rar & Sons gold medal winning Oktoberfest. It's actually my first time trying it. I don't think that I've ever had it before.
I don't think I have either. I've had a lot of good beers from them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've
never tried them. They've done phenomenal with what they do.
Yeah, and it's really good. Really caramely.
Very good.
Nice and sweet, malty. Maybe a little spice.
So I'm excited about this.
Get in, Bob. Let's go. The key is to try to get everything. Gravy, fry, cheese curd, and schnitzel.
Wow. That is very good.
Yeah.
I might have to go get more after this.
That's the kind of meal that is good in many stages of Oktoberfesting. I'd have to say that Schnitzel and Rar & Sons Oktoberfest for the win.
They go very good.
That was really fantastic.
Gold medals for both.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice job by the guys at Rye for sure. And man, that Oktoberfest is really good. I can see why they won a gold for sure.
Absolutely. That was very good.
Yeah. Beer number 2, Karbach. And for any judgy beer purists out there, these are just random Oktoberfest I had in my fridge on the way here. So it wasn't a carefully selected deal, but we just thought, why not have a few? for sure.
Well, you have good timing on your selection of beer in the refrigerator.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I try to buy
Seasonal.
I try to go around and buy Oktoberfest when they come out for sure. We've had a Franconia already. We'll probably have another Franconia Oktoberfest.
Which was very good.
Yeah, it's really good. That's probably my favorite. That Raw and Sons Oktoberfest was pretty good though. So we'll see. So Karbach. Well, I'm definitely never going to drink a beer and say, man, that sucks. So this was good also.
This was good also.
Maybe I'm a bad judge.
So these guys are from Houston.
Yep, absolutely. Houston area.
Have you been down to their
Yeah,
facility?
I have. When I lived in Austin area, I remember they came on the scene, and they've I want to say that they've signed on with some big guys now.
I think they did. I ran
Yeah.
into a couple of the brewers at the Master Brewers Association
In
conference
Kerrville?
in Kerrville that I went to.
Awesome.
Nice guys, really know what they're doing.
So essentially, Oktoberfest beers and Marzen beers are interchangeable terminology. Marzen literally means March. So before there was any refrigeration or anything like that, March was like the last time you could brew beer
While the weather was still good.
While the weather was still good, exactly. And then it would condition long enough to where it would be ready to go in October.
Right.
The cool thing about it is that, that I think is interesting, and, as far as kind of what we do at Harvest and what we do as brewers and, why is it important? Well, it's important to us because it's obviously beer national holiday.
Right.
Right. But also, it's like anything else you see in a tons of different, a lot of other cultures. It's something that celebrates fall, which is not just, Halloween and Kids Fall Festival, but it's agriculture. It's a celebrate of that. It's a symbol of that.
It's the harvest. It's the culmination of what you've been doing all summer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
If I pronounced that correctly.
I think so. I don't know. There's not much that I pronounce correctly, that's for sure. And once refrigerated was finally invented, which it was invented by a German.
Right.
No doubt.
Like everything else.
Like everything else.
Yeah.
You can really brew a Marzen beer kind of any time. So
I'm just
some of that's
curious.
been lost.
I'm kind of curious whether the first German was the one who found beer and decided to drink it.
The first person to ever find beer.
Would that have been a German?
No, well, the oldest recipe is Mesopotamia, right?
Right.
So it's the oldest thing written down.
That's more Iran.
Yeah, and the theory is just that corn or grain was left. Obviously not corn, since it's from America, but grain was left in a basket, retained some sort of water, began to ferment.
So it was found, it was found, not invented.
Exactly. It wasn't until Pasteur started to study, the bacteria and all those things that people really knew what was going on. I mean, that really wasn't that long ago, considering how long beer's been.
No,
made.
but could you imagine the first person who actually said, "Hey, I wonder what that tastes like"?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the first person to decide to eat an egg.
Yes.
I'm going to eat the next thing that comes out of that chicken's butt.
Yes.
We should probably dump that, Megan. All right.
What do we got next here? You want to do the 9-band or you want to do the Polliner?
I don't care. We'll do 9 bands. Get out of the way. We probably need a bottle opener or something for the lighter of work.
Oh man, I left my keys in the car. Otherwise, I'd have a bottle opener.
I've got quite a few ways I can open up a bottle. That's for sure. But with my luck, I'll do it upside Rick's table, and the edge will fall off.
And we could do that.
All right, so we got 9 bands version of Oktoberfest. And it's pretty good, man. I think it's about on par with Karbach,
It is. It's a little more aromatic. It's got good smell to it, good flavor.
Again, all good. Raw and Sons definitely stands out.
It does. It does.
Stands out for sure.
All right. Go to the next.
Yeah, so Polliner obviously is pretty mass-produced and probably not a great representation, but it was my first beer at my first Oktoberfest in New Braunfels, and I looked at my brother. We went to the Polliner tent. We ordered a beer, and they handed me a gallon of beer inside a giant koozie.
Oh, you were telling me. I love that story.
Yeah, man. And when they go up, and I was like, I'll take a beer. Hand me a giant pitcher. I might have been 21. Might have had my brother's ID. I don't remember. And yeah, giant beer. And then they were like, "Do you want a koozie with that?" And I was like, "Yes, I would like a koozie with that." And they brought out a giant Oktoberfest koozie and write my picture with it. I still have the koozie. I have no idea where the picture was. I tried to find it today.
Probably disintegrated after all these years.
It probably was. It had a good 6 or 7 year run. The Oktoberfest I've been to that are just a blast is just, I mean, just inside a big hall. Everybody's in tables. Everybody's dancing. Everybody's singing. And everyone has a giant pitcher of beer.
So the original Oktoberfest in Munich, that's what it's about. There's a large tent filled with tables and just celebrating all that stuff.
I still like Polliner. I think it's good, but
it's very good.
Again, I like all beers, so it's good, man. It's perfect. Fall beer. I love it, man. I love the festival, fall, fair park type scenario season. I love Oktoberfest. I love hearing the polka music, and I love drinking all these caramely malty beers, man. I think it's just perfect for this time of
year. My wife and I stopped by yesterday afternoon, and some polka music going on. Mm-hmm. We're sitting there going, wow. Had an older couple who were renewing their vows, and they decided to stop. Yeah, they decided to stop and do some little polka dancing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had a table from out of town, and they were like, "Hey, who's playing tonight? Sounds like y'all got a big crowd. It's a big stage." And I was like, the headliners tonight are Brave Combo. And they were like, "What is that?" And I was like, "They're a polka band." And they were like, "What? Polka band?" And I was like, "Have you guys never been to an Oktoberfest?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "Poor souls." I mean, like, wow.
Welcome to the real world.
I was like, here's what you do. It's like, you grab a beer, you walk around. At times when you see other people randomly shaking around like a chicken, follow suit.
Do
the same. Follow the guy with the chicken hat.
Yep.
For sure. One good thing too is, as we talked about it, and we'll talk about is that just the agricultural aspect and what it means. So,
and what you and I were talking about earlier. I mean, to be able to do the community, there's a time for the mega commercial stuff, which feeds the masses, but we also have a time to get back to what we grew up on. I mean, I'm showing my age a little bit here, but when we used to have food that had flavor seasonal, which really made a difference growing up. I mean, we looked forward to the food, to the grain, to the beer that was coming, because we didn't have it all the time. We had to wait. We had to anticipate. And beer is the same way. Call it strawberries, call it peaches, call it whatever. I mean, as it becomes in season and you get the beginning of the flavor, and then the height of that flavor, and then as it tails off as you go.
So I want to stay on that just for a little bit, Bob, because I think that's, you talk about showing your age, but to me it's like, I don't look at it that way. I think it as looking at it as a generation that wasn't, I don't know if the right word is tarnished, but like, whereas as I grew up, there was no sense of season. Like as a child, and growing up, and not that there was anything wrong with it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or anything like that, but there was no sense of season. There was football season.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Christmas season, spring and summer break, and all those things driven by agriculture. It seems to be like people are going back to that.
Right.
And I think that kind of, you growing up and your family, and being involved in agriculture.
Right.
Rick being involved in agriculture and where he grew up in Antlers. And one thing Rick always said that made sense to me is like, if there was a natural disaster, Antlers, Oklahoma would have been all right.
Right. I grew up with a party line until I was 8 years old.
What? Hold the phone. What's a party line?
Party line is where there were 5 people on the same phone line, and everybody had their individual ring. So if you were going to call me when I was 8 years old, I had to wait until there were 3 rings, and then it was my phone call. If there were 4 rings, it was somebody else's phone call.
So how would the caller differentiate that?
Though they didn't. I just didn't pick up until it was 3 rings. I picked up on the 3 rings. Next door neighbor picked up on the 4 rings.
Oh, so it wasn't just like the party line wasn't your family. It was like a block.
Oh, no. It was, yeah. So I lived on Short Street.
That's fantastic.
You're learning this for the first time. There were 13 houses on my street called Short Street, which is probably why we got Farmer's Daughter on the 13th recipe. Probably. So it was tough growing up because I wanted to talk to my friend, and I'd pick up the phone and somebody else would be talking. And I had to wait till they hung up so I could make a phone call.
Right. So, but you could go in, and those people would have no idea you're listening in.
No,
you know?
No, but they had the same problem we had.
I got bit by that a little bit. I was talking to a girl fairly late one night, and we had landlines, right, and everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm in this deep conversation. We're like 11 and 12, so we're probably like, I can't wait to hold your hand tomorrow, type of thing. And then all of a sudden, my mom.
I tried that
gets on the
once,
phone.
and it's not fun.
It's not fun.
No.
My mom gets on the phone, and she's like, Toby, you have school tomorrow. Hang up the phone right now. And I'm just like, all my game is gone.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you had to not just worry about your mom, you had to worry about
my next
every
door neighbor.
resident of Short Street being able to listen into Robert Lang's spitting game on said young lady of Ohio. That's fantastic. So, man, I think there's a couple things. And I talk to the servers and bartenders and stuff all the time and about how I'm really excited for their generation because I think that the technology that they've been given, number one, they almost all care about where their food comes from.
Oh, absolutely.
They almost all care about the ingredients that are in their beer. They almost all care about where their booze is coming from, or how their wine is made. And obviously, we've all seen it shift, or the consumers are shifting to go into that. And what's really surprising is the amount of information that is accessible to a person at such a young age. We have extremely young people that know way more about food and booze and farmers and all these things, about, dining, going out to eat and whatever that I even thought about when I was 20 or 21. So I think it's interesting in a way how as technology has kind of progressed, it's almost given us the ability to take a step back and take a look back.
Absolutely. See, when I grew up, I didn't know the difference necessarily. I mean, it was good. We ate, we did that. Now people are starting to say, wow, there was something better. There was something different. Now, growing up again, beer was always local. Beer was community. Beer was what your mom, dad, cousin did, whether they were farming or factory worker or whatever that was. It was that community. You got together at the local pub. I grew up on a place called Six's Corners. There were 4 bars on that corner. So we would walk up once on a Friday night, my mom and dad would have a few drinks. We'd get to have burgers and fries. Got to get a haircut at one of them, which I'm going into more stories than I probably should.
Yeah. It's all right, a haircut at a bar is pretty interesting, actually. But
no, so my dad, so once a month we would go up to the corner bar, put our name on a list, and go back. And Dad would have a beer. I would have Red Pop.
I'm assuming you
soda.
Texas translation.
I'm sorry.
Big Red.
Yes.
Red Pop.
Or maybe a Red Coke.
Red Coke. Okay.
Yeah, down here everything's Coke.
Yeah.
So we would go up there about noon, 12, 1 o'clock, put our name on, sit down. My claim to fame with my dad was I would match him 1 beer for 1 Red Pop.
Nice.
One day I had 17 Red Pops.
Dad had.
It took me a few years. Took me a few years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then we went, got a haircut, walked back home.
Yeah.
But that was what beer was all about back then.
Yeah, I think it's about community and different things. So, one thing I really like doing is I like giving our beer to the Bud Light drinker. And, even from growing up and bartending, I tell a story line. We opened up opening team of a restaurant in Round Rock, and we had all these craft beers on tap. And then our owners kept Bud Light and Coors Light for the guys that would come in. And I was like, man, we shouldn't even carry that, blah, blah. And then I had this one guy, all my regulars would come in afternoon, and I'd have this one guy that came in all the time, and he was like, hey, do you have Budweiser? And I was like, no, we don't, but I do have like Bud Light, Coors Light. He's like, do you have Guinness? I was like, no, I don't, but I got this local,
right.
stout, it's made, blah, blah. He's like, well, do you have any good beers? And I was like, well, what do you want? And so he would drink Bud Light. And after about 2 weeks of sitting there drinking Bud Light, he would see my regulars, and they're drinking, whatever Austin Beer Works is, or this or that, or, whatever. And then finally, like, after a few months, he's, like, in with that gang, and he's trying new stuff. And then he becomes, whatever label he finds, on that, he becomes a diehard drinker for. But one thing that I think is so interesting is that what you're talking about is the same mindset that person has.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? They're like, no, man, I just need a Bud Light. I don't need all this fancy stuff. I don't need all this blah, blah. Well, actually, Bud Light's kind of the fancy stuff when you think about it, right? It's a massive place. It's tons of scientists behind it, tons of this. You're just brewing beer in the back of the kitchen with whatever you can find.
After Farmer's Daughter was on tap, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 days, I came in to check on one of the beers, one of the tanks back there, and the waiter came up and says, Bob, come here. He says, you see those 3 guys over there? He says, 2 of them ordered Farmer's Daughter. The 3rd one said he was just a Bud Light drinker. Came back for the 2nd round, they all had Farmer's Daughter. My claim to fame is converting a Bud Light drinker to Farmer's Daughter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's and it's funny is I've seen that happen
time
again, right? And which is kind of a goal. So I think it's such an interesting thing that's what you hear those guys stick to. It's kind of like their tradition. This is what they did, and I'm like, actually, like that way of doing things.
Oh yeah.
The Anheuser-Busch way of doing things is actually against tradition, right? It's against those things, Our goal is not necessarily to be really anything other than what the earth has given us.
Oh, absolutely.
What the community has given us, right? What the farmer has given us, what Tex Malt gets from a farmer that they can give to us, and that's kind of it. So if that's a honey blondel, and that's what in this region we can do consistently, and be sustainable and be responsible to our environment and put out what we feel is a pretty decent product, then that's what we'll do.
So here in Texas, with the dirt and the soil, we're going to get a little different flavor in the malts, the hops. I mean, right now we're having to get hops out of state.
Absolutely.
Tex Malt, Blacklands, they're both getting grains in Texas, malted in Texas, grown in Texas, and they're going to be slightly different flavors. Whether it's here, it's Austin, it's up in Oklahoma. What we're getting is really pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and it certainly, I mean, especially with this small system that we have, and the fact that we both have full-time jobs.
You mean other than beer making?
Other than beer making, yeah.
Okay.
We do things. So, our brewing time is pretty precious.
It is very precious.
It's pretty precious, but at the same time, it's like when we find something like the rye we got from Tex Malt, the Calypso malt that they're going to bring us from Hillsboro.
Awesome.
It's like it's like that week's special.
So I'm excited about that. The Calypso from Hillsboro, and hops from the farm, Cascade.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited about doing one of those.
Yeah, it's to relieve the maltiness and caramel-ness of Oktoberfest for a minute. So we're about 3 years in on our hops on our farm in Lucas, Waterboy Farms. And this year has just been really awesome. We've got a ton of good hops, and well, I say a ton comparatively to what we've had in the past.
I'm hoping we can get 2 barrels out of it.
I think that we can probably. I think that we can get 2 barrels out of it, but we'll see. But what I think the most encouraging thing is that from 6 or 7 hop binds, we got enough to make a barrel or 2.
Oh, absolutely.
And the aroma is really great. They smell awesome. You know, they look good for what we've done. And I don't know, man. I can't wait to see what that tastes like. So, like you were saying, we're going to do a single malt, single hopped pale ale, basically.
Right. I'm hoping we can do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, hey,
we don't have it on the schedule yet.
That all depends on you. And I'm telling you, you need to really start slacking off at Raytheon so they stop giving you projects.
I know. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, I told you. Obviously, we have that coming down the pipeline. That'll be our Row 26 IPA.
Right.
Our Row 26 Pale Ale. I don't know if we'll have enough hops to really make it an IPA. But Row 26 was the row on our farm that we planted the hops on a few years back. Otherwise, coming up in the brewery, we have the porter coming down the pipeline. We have the Farmer's Daughter back on tap. We had our growler release party about a week ago. Thank you everybody that came out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a blast. We're still selling growlers at Harvest. You can bring your own growler in. We can fill it up with. Due to the TVC restrictions, we can only fill up what we brew on premise. So you can get a growler of Farmer's Daughter or a growler of Red River Rye for $18, which is a 64-ounce growler. So that's 4 full pints of beer. You can buy one of our growlers for only $10 if you want to, and then come back and fill it up anytime that you want. We've got, as Bob mentioned, we're working on a porter right now. It's called Old Leathercoat. It's going to be a porter that's brewed with orange peel and Luxardo cherries. The name Old Leathercoat comes from James Throckmorton, whose nickname was Old Leathercoat, given to him by the Caddo Indians because he always wore a brown leather coat, which actually the restaurant Rye is his old law office.
Is that? I did not know that.
Yeah, they got their little historical marker out there. So
wow.
Anyway, so we got that coming down the pipelines. In the incredibly premature stages, I just got word from Andrew, the head viticulturalist at Grayson College, that our grapes are about ready.
Awesome.
In the next week or two, we've partnered up with Iron Root Distillery in Denison, and we're going to go to Grayson College, and we're going to go harvest some of TV Munson's original grapevines, and we're going to brew beer with those grapes. And then Iron Root's going to distill it for us. So that'll be a project that'll be.
I'm excited for that.
Years in the making. Yeah, it'll take a while to happen, but
I might have gray hair by then.
Yeah, I might have some gray hair by then as well, Bob. So definitely some good things. So right now we're going to be cranking out the Farmer's Daughter Honey Blonde Ale, the Red River Rye. Please come in. We're on batch number 3. We'll be doing batch number 4 towards the end of the week.
Yes.
And we're going to tinker with it just a little bit. So as we brew things, we definitely want all you guys' remarks and comments and feedback. And
feedback is awesome. We need all we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't be afraid to give us your honest, vehement opinion. We have very thick skin. We're married. We're used to the truth.
There you go.
We're used to the truth. Batch 1, 2. Batch 1, we put the hops up on the batch 2.
We did.
A little bit on the Red River Rye.
We did a little bit higher than that. I'm looking forward to 1, 2, 3. So yeah, this is batch 4, where we're gonna try and do a little dry hopping.
Yeah.
Which is a little extra from what we've been doing.
So why don't you tell them what dry hopping means for those that don't know?
So the dry hopping is going to be after you're in the fermentation tank. So you do your hopping in the boil tank, and then when you get the fermentation tank, as you're getting toward the end of fermentation, you throw in extra hops just for the aroma.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going to try and use the citra hop, and I think the spiciness of the rye.
Yes.
And sort of the orange and citrus notes of citra
should bring that out a little more.
Yeah, it should be nice. Just a little,
the
just
aroma,
a little aromatic.
The aroma just before you actually take a sip.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for us for our second episode of Mash In with Toby and Bob. Thanks again for tuning in. We're out from Oktoberfest here in historic downtown McKinney at Harvest Seasonal Kitchen. Prost.